Hello, folks. Welcome to the Manly Pinterest Tip Show. I'm Jeff C., and you're not. And I'm very excited to have, once again on my show, Vincent Ng. He is always awesome, and I know we're going to have a good show. And feel free to ask your questions as we're going along today's show. Ask them in the comments on Facebook and ask them in the comments on Blab, and we will try to get to them. But first, I want to tell you about my super exclusive group training on Pinterest and visual marketing is getting ready to shut its doors. And I have only room for a couple more people. If you'd like to take your Pinterest and visual marketing to the next level, go to manlypinteresttips.com/training. All right. So if you've never heard of Vincent before, which nobody on earth, well, maybe in Canada, hasn't heard of him, but he is the founder of MCNG Marketing, and he's a Pinterest marketer and speaker. He's the author of Pinterest to Profits with Pentalysis and host of the Pictures to Profits podcast. He is a top 20 resource for becoming a Pinterest expert, according to Heo, and has written for amazing blogs such as Social Media Examiner, Top Dog Social Media, and Tailwind. All right, Vincent, thank you so much for being here once again on today's show.
We're going to have so much fun, Jeff. I'm really looking forward. It's been a while, but I'll be honest, I know this is going to be an awesome show because you're an awesome host.
Oh, well, there's a lot of news going on. And I felt bad because we didn't get to sit down and talk as much at Social Media Marketing World. You killed it on your presentation. I've heard nothing but good things. And so, but here we're going to catch up today. But okay, tons of changes on Pinterest. And let's start with one of the most controversial changes that a lot of people are talking about in the Pinterest community, the summary pin. What exactly are those, and what in the world, why are people upset about it?
It's interesting. I'm not too sure. There's two sides of the story. And I think that when you're referring to the summary pins, I think you're talking about how they kind of accumulate all these the counts now, which is kind of true, not true. It really depends on how it goes. But the gist of it is that they take kind of like the total repins down the tree. Right. So before, you used to be able to see how well your pins did individually. Now it's kind of hard to see what the numbers are and how well they're performing unless you're willing to literally click on each and every single pin to see the activity that's been going on for the last little while. And I think that's the controversy you're referring to, Jeff, is where's the data?
Yeah. Well, and Melissa, she wrote in her article, and she goes, specific images from a specific URL will get credit for the engagement from its sister pin. So does that mean that everything from that URL will be counted, or just that image? That's what I'm kind of confused on, because I'm still trying, and I know it's not come out for everybody, and, people are kind of, upset about it, but what do you think is going to actually happen?
Yeah, I don't know. When it comes to the Pinterest engineering team, I think they always try to do their best to make things easier. But in terms of just what's going to happen, I don't know. From my experience, and Jeff, of course, I'd love to hear what you think. But, you see different pins with different numbers. So some of them will have like 1,000. And then, but it's interesting because then if you use like Tailwind, which is for scheduling, right? If you schedule through them, if it's not an old pin, but it's a rather new one, then you kind of get fresh numbers. So you might only see single digits. So right now, I don't know if it's based on the URL or if it's based on some kind of weird tracking they have on the back end. But to be honest, it's probably as mysterious as anything, to be honest.
Right. Well, a lot of people are upset because they think it's going to take away the power of a viral pin or whatever. I like it because for me, it gives me more social proof. And so, if it's sitting there for a while and it's just doesn't have much, but over time it grows and they see that number on there, I think that's great for social proof for me to get saying, oh, that, because really when you go look at all the different things you could pin on a certain subject, sometimes you look and say, oh, this one's got a lot of pins. I'm going to actually click on that, see what it's about, and I may even repin it. So for the social proof thing, I kind of like it, but I can understand why some people might get a little bit upset. And the other thing I want to ask your question about, and we haven't really touched on this, but I know we're in some groups together that we talk about this, but because this kind of has to something to do with it. But deleting pins is a big strategy too. That's another whole controversial stuff. Should you or should you not? It gives you all this extra stuff if you do it or not. And I know I have a feeling you land on the same place as I do, is deleting pins is not really a good strategy. And I think because of this new model that they're showing, why would you delete a pin that later on could take off? That's my thinking. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and I think that especially nowadays, what's happening a lot with Pinterest is that it takes time to get momentum. I've kind of looked at some of the analytics and found that, okay, a pin may not do so well literally in your first week, but once it gets traction, if you look at the data, probably in terms of like your last 3 months, then you start noticing, wait, the one that didn't get 3 pins initially in your first week all of a sudden gets 100. So like you're saying, I really advise against deleting pins, and I hope this really just nips that in the bud, because like you're saying, it's social proof. Why would you want to?
Especially if it takes, let's say you have some pins and you repin it and this pin didn't do so well. It's a repin of one you've done before. Why would you take it away from if you delete it, it would take those counts, if you're getting any, away from your total count. So I'm like, what? Why? And so there's Elisa and both Elisa and Melissa in the comments said, amen, take this stuff away. Would quit talking about the deleting pins people, which is true. But I don't think everybody's trying to find a quick fix for everything. For me, Pinterest has always been the long-term process. It's a daily grind, but that grind can really pay off in the long run. I don't know if you have the same thoughts or not, Vincent.
Yeah, and I'm gonna share something that's really embarrassing, so everybody don't laugh. But the reality is, I don't pin much to my own account now. Just kind of busy with other stuff. But the reality is, I haven't actually pinned much to it. And the funny thing is, it's still driving. It's still my number one social referral traffic for my website. You know, and I haven't really done much, I would say, actively in the last 8 months. So I mean, there's a lot of power just to show you that if you're active on it a lot, you put it in the time. You're still going to get traffic even when you don't do squat. I hate to say it. I'm embarrassed, but that's just the reality.
Yeah, and that's why I got into Pinterest, because it was one of the easiest networks to do. And so that's the whole reason. You caught me there. But the thing also, because I go to your account every day to see if you've pinned anything new, Vincent. So I know you haven't done much, because I always like your stuff. But about the, the deleting pins and some of the stuff this news that comes out, how do you, when news like that comes out, what is your advice to like your small businesses who may have heard something like, oh, we've got to delete pins now? When these new little tweaks or little gimmicks come out in the news cycle or whatever, what do you tell clients? Do you have like some advice that you give them, like, okay, calm down, this is what you need to do?
Yeah, I think. It's funny because Kate just joined us, and she hates deleting pins too, right, Kate?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the reality is, I tell people, like you're saying, Jeff, great advice, which is think for the long term. Literally, I think and everybody probably sees this, is that we've seen algorithms change every like few months. Something will happen, and inevitably either it's going to help or it's going to hurt. But I think that deleting pins is not the solution. I think that's kind of a quick fix. And the reality is, nobody really has any hard data. I know that there is a lot of speculation about it. So I think that, think for the long term and think what's best for your customers. What do you want them to see? What do you want them to experience? And I think that if you deliver that Pinteresting experience to them, there's really no need to delete pins. It's just too time consuming.
Right. Well, and there's somebody who asked a question, is this for selling on Pinterest? And this has to do with any type of product on Pinterest. If you're going and, they were saying to delete products that weren't doing well or anything. So it has to do with anything that you're promoting on Pinterest. Kim has a great comment. She goes, the easiest to do, just pin pretty awesome things that users want to see. How hard is that? There is a little bit more to it. And I know Kim, she kind of went wink, wink in there, but really, you have to think of your audience. You're thinking of what your audience is wanting to see, and you're giving them content that goes in that direction. So the other new thing that kind of came out was custom notes. So I know you're big in Pinterest SEO, and you're the guy I always turn to for SEO stuff. And this kind of plays into that because, we always talk about optimizing your description. So what's the deal with Pinterest? So do we not have to do descriptions anymore? What's the deal with this?
I don't know too much about it, so maybe you can help me out with it. But from my understanding, Jeff, is that you're no longer forced to write a description, or that I believe if someone repins your stuff, then basically Pinterest doesn't show the description. The funny thing is, I have repinned stuff and it still takes their description and still shows. So I actually don't know what's going on. I feel like there's some controversial sayings.
I don't think it's come out yet all the way. And from what I understand too is rich pins won't be affected. So for people who don't know what rich pins are, it's extra information that they pull from your meta tag on your website for different types of pins that gives information and kind of locks it in there so people can't mess with it. And the description we're talking about is when you repin something, you type it in there. And I guess if you don't want to use what's there, the Pinterest is going to be they're going to pull some sort of universal description. The thing is that I was looking at Pin Chat, the group that we're in. It's a great group by Kelly Lieberman and Kim Vidge run that. It's not run out to everybody yet. And so there's some things, okay, I'm seeing universal stuff. What's this universal description going to be? The bottom line is to continue, and Tailwind says the same thing, is to continue to optimize for Pinterest SEO and write good descriptions. So, Vincent, I know you're all about writing good descriptions. Just give our audience a little taste of what does it mean to write a good description for Pinterest?
Yeah, so when you're talking about writing great descriptions for Pinterest, there's a simple tip that I really offer, which is go to the desktop version. You can actually do this on mobile as well, but type in the keywords that you want your pins to rank for. So let's say it happens to be you're in the business of selling shoes. If you type in shoes, I'm sure there's things like women's shoes that will pop up just below it. So there'd be these like tiles that you see. It could be red shoes, blue shoes. So what you want to do is incorporate some of those keywords into your pin description. So if you happen to pin a woman's red shoe, then put in women's red shoes, or it could be budget shoes or whatever it is. I'm not saying those are the words, of course, but it just gives you so much data. And I think a lot of people actually don't do that. They don't actually put the words that Pinterest is suggesting into their pin description. So that's probably the one tip I can give that will really help in terms of SEO within Pinterest itself.
And what I would say is I'm wondering about this because right now I don't usually, when I repin something, I usually don't write another description. And I'm wondering with this, if it's going to be blank or the stuff that they're going to pull in is something that's going to be good, or is it going to be computer, it's almost like when YouTube makes your comments or, when they do your subtitles, how horrible it is. If it's something that I'm going to have to start adding to my practice is when I repin something, I'm going to have to write a good description. That's going to take a lot more time. I'm not sure I really like that or not. But if it gets me up higher on the news feed, I don't know. So what are your thoughts on, that's going to change the way, I know like for you and me both is when we repin stuff, we're just kind of going through it and, sharing stuff that our audience will like. But, if we have to write a new description or leave it blank and those are the choices, I don't know if I like that or not.
Yeah, and I think that that's going to be the hard part for people to decide. I think that I remember seeing some beta tests. Maybe it was a beta test, but I did repin some stuff. And like you're saying, it just kind of takes the title and it leaves it blank. So again, if someone has a rich pin content and maybe you're not interested in writing the full description, then I think you don't actually have to. But that being said, do you want to spend all the time, like you're saying, Jeff, writing those descriptions? Probably not. Is it going to affect your time? For sure. But I have a feeling Pinterest has got your back in the sense that they're going to make it easy as possible so that you're not forced to write one. That's my feeling.
Melissa makes a great point that rich pins are becoming more and more important, which is very, very true. And Kate says, rich pins can be glitchy sometimes. And I know she works with a ton of bloggers and, they're a picky lot. And so, it is hard. So, so my thing is if it gives me a good return on my investment, if I'm going to get a lot more followers or my pins are going to do better that I pin myself because I'm writing descriptions and Pinterest somehow flags my account as like, he's an awesome pinner, everybody look at him, then I'll do it. But if not, it's just going to take forever trying to write pins for everything. So now here's what Danny says, and there's a great article. It's their most recent article at tailwindapp.com for you guys who are watching on Facebook. But he says that it might be incentivizing pinners to create personal notes and that there'll be more unique content and the interest graph should fill out faster, improving recommended content, which makes sense for Pinterest since they're growing so fast and doing that. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that might be the play that they're doing?
Yeah, I think the interest graph is something they've been really trying to tweak with, and I think it's going to become a more important role as time goes on. And so I think, to be quite honest, I think a lot of businesses are underestimating how powerful the interest graph is. At the same time, I think that what is also happening is just Pinterest in general is moving towards kind of getting you to build up your follower base as well. So if you take a look at your statistics probably recently in the last few months, you probably would have seen that your own account is getting more engagement and website traffic. So that's something to pay attention to as well, I would say.
Very cool. And I just threw up the link for those people who want to click on that in the Blab for that article. That's a cool little feature with Blab. So when you say interest graph, just so people are on the same page, you may be watching it. What is that, and what are you talking about?
Yeah, so the interest graph is really, it's kind of, it's a little different from what people would be normally known as kind of like a social graph. So, which on Facebook is associated with your friends, what type of activity they kind of predict based on those connections, what they should kind of show you next, or what they might recommend. Types of advertisements, organic posts on Facebook. The interest graph is a little bit different in the sense that what Pinterest is trying to find out is what are you interested in and not necessarily what other people are following. And interest graphs can be determined by what you're pinning. So they want to, if you've been pinning a lot of stuff from travel, they're definitely going to show you more travel stuff. They actually will determine part of that through what interest you follow as well. So if you've signed up for a Pinterest account recently, you probably notice that they don't really recommend that you follow boards or people, but saying, hey, follow these 5 interests. So the interest graph is really, what are we going to show you based on things that you click, things that you like, and the activity that you've been engaging with on Pinterest. So that's kind of a gist of it.
Gotcha. Very good. Thanks for that, because I always forget sometimes, and I always have to have Vincent on to remind me what exactly it is. The other thing that Danny said in that article, which I thought was good, and he gave a reason for why they may be doing this, this changing to the descriptions, is he said the universal descriptions that they may pull in themselves should help solve the low quality pin descriptions or keyword stuffing or just emoticons. I know we've all seen those pins where they've just mentioned like, hey Vincent, check out this Batman thing, and that's all it is, and that really doesn't add value to the pin other than for Vincent and his Batman collection. But so I thought that was a good point too. Is it maybe they're really wanting these to do well and to your descriptions to add value.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you, Jeff. I think you're right on the ball, and same with Danny. I think that at the end of the day, I think they're looking for quality content, and they want to make sure that the people that are seeing the pins are seeing quality, not just in the pictures, but like you're saying, good quality descriptions, and that I think have a more of a universal appeal. I think, if you're going to tag your friend at Batman 101 or whatever that guy's name is, that's just too customized for that person. So I think at the end of the day, the most important part is when these changes do come, make sure you have a great headline. If you have rich pins, I think at the end, those are going to stay for a long time.
Right. And Elisa pointed out that article was written by Danny, but I just want to calm this fiery redhead down. I was quoting Danny in the article, so take that, Elisa. Anyway, okay, here's the big elephant in the room that everybody tuned in to talk about. Okay, affiliate links are now allowed back on Pinterest, and that's a big deal. So, why did they take them away in the first place? So, what was the big deal of why did they have them, and why did they stop using them?
Yeah, so I think that comes down to a pretty strong business decision, which is if we give people the power to do affiliate links, then it takes away from promotions that I would say advertising money from Pinterest. That's the gist of it. So you had these influential, I would say, pinners. They've got like millions of followers. They can work with companies directly, and it kind of cuts out Pinterest from that share. So I think that was a big part of why they took out affiliate links. I don't know, Jeff. I think there is a bit of a theory saying that they put affiliate links back because someone from Amazon is now on their board. Yeah, which if you've actually been in really large corporations, I mean, we're talking about an 11 billion evaluated corporation, to get someone from another big company like Amazon on board to provide their expertise probably required some compromise, I'd imagine. But what's your theory? Do you think this is a business decision?
Well, I think maybe that that kind of conspiracy theory is true. It might have something to do with it, or maybe they brought it up and they were open to it. But I also think they want to reward bloggers. I think that um, the content, the bloggers and the people who put those things in there, I do think they want to kind of reward people who are putting content into Pinterest because it's growing so fast. And if they didn't have new content, then Pinterest doesn't really work. I mean, it's really a catalog of ideas. And so if your ideas dry up, then it's just not as valuable anymore. And so I think them allowing bloggers to make a little bit of money and that they have the technology now to kind of help remove some of the spam. I think that's I'm hoping that's the reason. I'm hoping they wanted to kind of give back to the people who are putting in so much content. So it's going to be really interesting to see. But, on all these changes we talked about, and I wanted to touch on this really quickly before we got more into promoted pins, and I've talked about this online, but we've noticed because of all these changes, our direct traffic has kind of gone down. And I've checked with other bloggers and other Pinterest people. Do you think that's typical when Pinterest makes changes, or is it something that is a little hiccup and now we're slowing to recover? Because I notice on most of my accounts they're kind of trickling back up. But why do you think that happens? And is that just part of the process? Or I mean, there's a lot of questions about what's going on there.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, the only people that probably really know what's going on is Pinterest, because they have all the secrets. Right. Or maybe Peg Fitzpatrick, because I know she knows everything. She gets a little slip-ups of details here and there. I know she does. But I think the reality is it's just like any other social media. The algorithm does change. We have to kind of prepare that sometimes our traffic goes down. The other thing that is theoretical, and I can't prove this, is that the fact that there are just way more pins than there are followers at this moment. And the reality is Pinterest is, it's 100 million followers, but it's really not growing at the rate that it needs to. And so when you've got literally, if you think about it, if each marketer or each business just puts 5 pins per day, we're putting tons of that stuff. And so people are going to keep seeing the same old pins, but Pinterest, I think, is trying to move to the direction is that they're really trying to show you new stuff that's relevant. And so I think we're probably going to see that it's more of a steady traffic is my theory. As we head into the summer months, for sure, some things are just going to drop off completely off the map. But things like summer recipes or cocktails, again, barbecue recipes, which I know you're a huge fan of, Jeff.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're going to see, some good spikes in those kind of areas.
I think it's also really interesting that they're growing really, really fast in foreign markets. And it's to me, it's poor Canadians, but it's interesting to me that they have all this growth in foreign markets and they have most of their, promoted pins and Bible pins in the U.S. market. And it seems like they may be kind of playing some catch up or trying to get things to even out between the two different things because of, most of your products, it's growing faster overseas and they can't really buy pins, use Bible pins. It's kind of a crazy thing. I don't know, maybe the affiliate links has something to do with that or not, but.
Yeah, and I think that, especially with the foreign markets and everything is so, especially with Pinterest, it's very regionalized versus like compared to Facebook. I think Facebook does a good job of unifying the experience with everybody. I know that on a larger scale, in terms of international growth, part of the problems is that some people, like in Brazil, the idea of a pin is so foreign because they think of diapers, the diaper pin. So on some of the accounts, I'm sure some of you have, like, there's the save button. There isn't a pin it button. Right. So it's all up in the air. Right now.
Well, maybe they'll change like Facebook did, like a thumbs up, and maybe it'll be just a big, a pin button and not a pin it or save button. So now about this. Oh, I wanted to drop in this real quick. This is a great article about the new affiliate links by Elisa. Let me go in now. Let me put it in here in this comments. But one of the things that she talks about, is it going to bring up a bunch of spammy pins? That's the kind of the question is letting these affiliates back in. Is everybody going to start going and just pinning the entire Amazon catalog? I mean, what's going to happen? What are your thoughts on that? I know they've made some changes, but what do you think about letting affiliates? Is it a good thing or not?
Yeah, number one, I think it's a good thing because, like you mentioned earlier, Jeff, I think it rewards bloggers and people who are who have been really dedicated to the Pinterest community and helping the platform grow. I think that really what Pinterest is really good at is that they've been really good at detecting spam. And one of the ways that you can tell that this has happened in the last few years is you look at group boards. And you have to admit, when group boards first started out, you could see the amount of spam was just crazy. And now you go to group boards and almost everything is relevant. And so they're really good at picking out. And I think that at the end of the day, if you try to do too much affiliate work, and they know they've got data on all these websites, right? So if they notice that you're pinning too much from Amazon or from Share a Sale or from whatever affiliate program that you're using, they're probably gonna go, you know, we know what you're doing, and we're not going to show your pins to your followers anymore. Right. So there's really no point. But what's your take, Jeff? Do you think this is a good thing? Do you think spammers are going to rule the Pinterest world?
No, I think it's interesting, and I tested it too, because and I noticed that when I changed the link I did a Amazon to a book or something just to test it. And I noticed it took a long time before it finally saved, when you go in and you edit the pin. And I think that was that robot spam checker checking to make sure that it wasn't something, it was going to where it said it was going to go, that kind of a thing. And so I think it'll be good. I think there'll be abuse at first. And I think they'll cramp down on it too hard, and then they'll release it again a little bit. But I think it's a great way for bloggers to make a little bit of extra money. Like I have a geek board, and so I'm going to pin things that I pin a lot of stuff before that there was no chance I would make any money at. I just did it because I thought my audience would like it. Well, it's going to be nice now if somebody goes and buys something that I get a little extra from that. And so will I do that more? Probably. And so that may be what Pinterest is, us to do. So I think it's really great. So what are some ways that you think, and I know you probably thought about this, and I know a lot of pinners who saw the affiliate links thing go through, how do you think it's a way for people to make some money? And there's already, I've seen, some really spammy sites already saying, hey, Pinterest can now make you $1 gazillion and not do any work, and And I know that's going to happen, and more of that's going to happen. But what are some ways do you think, Vincent, that, a honest and maybe, a hardworking blogger could make some extra money with affiliate pins?
Yeah, who's really great with this? Not necessarily with Pinterest, but if you ever check out Pat Flynn's Smart Passive Income, he always describes, here's my resource page, right? This is the hosting that I use. This is the microphone that I use. So he has all these links. And I think that, for people, because we are very visual, again, you can refer people, like if you need a visual guide of everything, just kind of go to this Pinterest board, check out all the details. It links to the affiliate links. And I think that that's a good way to have bloggers make the extra cash. Share what resources you're using, because again, it's not a coincidence. I mean, we're using the same mic because people keep recommending these type of microphones. So I think that's kind of a good way to start off making money. And the other thing too, is like, I know you and Peg, and there's people that are just out there that pin stuff they love. Like you're saying, you love something. As long as it's really genuine to who you are, there's no reason that you can't share. These are my favorite Christmas things. So I think that's kind of another way. How about you, Jeff? What are you thinking in terms of cash for bloggers?
I think it's the same kind of a thing that you're saying, like Pat was doing. Lisa did a great thing, and she was like, this is what I use for my podcasting stuff, and she had a board for that, and those were affiliate links, which I think is great. What's this? Cliff Ravenscraft, he does that. He makes a bunch of money off his podcasting stuff because that's what he does, and I have no problem with that at all. Peg asked a great question, and I think I understand it, but she goes, someone on my Facebook thought I was gaming Pinterest to use images on your blog posts that didn't have to do with your business. And I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I guess there's always a chance that somebody's going to think that you're just writing about something, or you're just doing something just to make money. I guess that's a question, but she goes, I'm not sure what they were looking at, but the whole point to add great images to your post. I don't think that's gaming, showing off images to, teach people how to make images. I don't think that's gaming Pinterest at all. So that's my opinion. But here's the other thing that I think is going to be an issue. At least here, I don't know what in the FTC, we have to say affiliate link on our links in our post now. I don't know. Does the Canadian have a CTC or whatever? I don't know how that works over there. Maybe it's all Wild West. But So we have to put affiliate links in our stuff. And so, I didn't even do that. I forgot to do that in that test post that I did. So I've got to go back and fix that. So what else do you think we're going to have to do to do these affiliate links? Because everybody's not going to do that. You think there's something in the algorithm that Pinterest is going to be able to say, or are we going to have to put it in every description? That's a big question for me.
Yeah, and what's really funny is that it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, is that if people repin your stuff and there's no description, who's ultimately responsible for that kind of stuff, right? And to be honest, and I'm not a legal expert in any way in terms of the Canadian and the American laws, but like you're saying, I think the best thing you can do, which Peg actually does with her tweets, is she just puts ad,
right?
So that people know right away that this is something that she benefits making money off of. That being said, I mean, it'd be interesting to see how the FTC will go about this when, let's say, promoted pin is being done, but someone repins it and the description isn't there. So I wish I could give like some solid legal advice, but I it's hard. Every network's going to be different, and at the end of the day, I think
it's going to be hard for bloggers to keep up with all this. I mean, I wish there'd be a place that you could just get it, all at once. But I mean, that's the thing, when that description goes away, and because they're not rich pins, because you're actually using an affiliate link, and so you don't have any way to kind of lock that in there, what happens? I mean, it's going to be an interesting thing. And I think Kate even said earlier that there may be even breaking Amazon's terms of service by doing Pinterest links. And so I guess you could. Well, see, a lot of people, Stone and Press says you could add a small affiliate piece to the text to your image, but the problem is a lot of people go straight from Amazon, pin that book cover, and then put their affiliate link in there. And so you could put that would be the only way, I guess, technically, to do it. But yeah, it's going to open up a can of worms. And the last thing you want to happen is the FTC go back and say, oh, you owe this much money and you got to have a fine. And golly, it's going to be crazy. So it's exciting, but it's also scary because you just don't want to owe Uncle Sam any more than you have to. But
yeah, and to be quite honest, I think in all fairness, I know this will probably roll out in the next few months, but I think Pinterest will eventually have some good solid guidelines for everybody. I think as we have more affiliate links, they're going to make it very explicit to say, okay, we know that there's a lot of affiliate links. This is what you need to do to follow FTC regulations. And I think that will clarify. I think right now they just rolled it out, but we're just not getting all the details yet. But I think with a little patience, we're going to get some solid guidelines.
Yeah. But the cool thing, we're talking about Amazon for a while, and Elisa was talking about this. She had somebody who they didn't buy any of her stuff, but she got the cookie on there, and they went and bought some stuff. And Kate was mentioning that even she's seen some weird stuff people buy after they visit the site. So to me, that's always interesting with the FTC, because they're buying stuff that's not having to do with your affiliate link, your actual product you're putting up there. And you're making money off stuff. If I put this book and you decided not to buy the book, but you went and bought a computer, then I got a cut of that computer. And so, but that's not what I was advertising. And so, how are they going to come back and tax me for that? I mean, it's just craziness. I don't think anybody understands how this stuff works or not. So, anyway, the last question I wanted to talk to you about is, I guess you can promote pins with affiliate links. Is that correct?
Actually, I think Elisa can chime in, but you can actually promote pins with affiliate links. She's done it for a few of them, as a matter of fact, I believe.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess the thing you're going to have to do is the arbitrage and see because promoted pins are kind of expensive. So sometimes it may not, if you're making 15 cents on something that's, it's costing you $1, you may want to save that money and go back to college. Let's see. Christmas time is the best time to see what people purchase through your Amazon. That's a good point. And Peg, look at her. She knows all this stuff. Lord and Taylor was fine because they had people post and didn't disclose. So yeah, the big brands are getting hit hard, and it would not surprise me if they go after the little guys too much longer. So, Lisa, if you want to pop in and talk about your article and the stuff you learned when you're doing affiliate links, I'm going to go ahead and open the seat for people who want to jump in and ask questions. But I think it's really cool that they didn't lock down the promoted pins with affiliate links. I think that's a good thing. I think that if you have something, especially if it's something that, it's got a big, price point, and you're going to make a lot of money, and you can work it out that you promote those things. I think that's a great thing. So what are your thoughts, Vincent?
Yeah, I think it's a great thing. I think that there's always going to be people that are going to try to abuse it. Again, they're going to get caught right away, or I would say at least relatively soon. But yeah, it's great. So you can start trying to promote courses, things like that. It's a win-win. As long as, just think about your audience. I think that's the most important thing.
Very, very cool. So that's kind of the lowdown right now on affiliate links that we know of. It's going to be changing constantly. So, follow people like Vincent and Elisa and Peg Fitzpatrick and myself and Kate All and Kim Vidge and everybody who's been in this group in Pin Chat. Follow them because they are on top of all this stuff, and they can really help you kind of navigate some of the murky waters of Pinterest. I'm excited because with changes, it's growth, and I think they're listening to the people who use their platform. So I'm pretty excited about that. What about you, Vincent?
Yeah, I'm actually really excited about the changes, especially with the new affiliate links. I think that's going to be, I think that's funny because I think a lot of times we talk about things being a game changer. Right. I know, we talked up a storm about Flashlight, but I haven't really heard much about it. But
anyway,
I still do too. Yeah. But this is something I think that's going to bring back the love to Pinterest. And I'm really excited about that.
Have you thought any about making your own e-commerce site because of this now?
Well, the funny thing is I don't have an e-commerce site, but I do sell courses. I sell books. And I know that, and to be quite honest, I'm going to be fair. If people are thinking about using Pinterest with an e-commerce site, it's a lot of work. It's not just as simple as you pin a few things and somehow miraculously it's going to spread to 10,000 people. It's not like that anymore. So I'm not going to, but it sounds like, are you going to start a line of manly products?
Yes. No, I don't. And Stone and Press brings up some stuff. He says you can get a world of hurt with e-commerce outside of the U.S. due to tax, and that's a good point. And so, how would you pin stuff just for certain audiences? That's kind of interesting as well. And what happens if you get an affiliate link? I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff too. But I'm excited because I've thought about I've always thought about growing, and if you do an e-commerce site, what does that mean? And now this opens it up. And if you have a product, I would play with maybe making your stuff available to have affiliates and see if that will make a difference on Pinterest. If you have any sort of product and you're not on Pinterest, I think you're missing out on a ton of opportunity just to get eyeballs on your product. To me, Pinterest is a huge catalog, and I know a lot of the social, everybody's talking about Snapchat and all this other stuff. Pinterest people have money. Snapchat people still live in their mom's basement. I mean, I didn't mean to sound bad, but you know what I'm saying? There's actual studies that are done that Pinterest has, they have over $100,000 as, gross income. And so it's crazy, some of this stuff. And I think of, if you have an e-commerce product, what platform you want to be on, I'd pick Pinterest. But now I'm going to get in trouble with all the Snapchat people. But anyway.
That's okay. Don't Snapchatters. Look at your attention span, for God's sakes.
But it is a catalog of ideas, and I think that it's going to continue to grow and be continue to be a contender for e-commerce stuff. So if anybody wants to jump in, now's the time and ask questions of Vincent while he's here live from Canada. So
I want Elisa to jump in because she's actually made some money from her pins. I want her to share her experience. Come on, Elisa. Jump in. It's because I haven't called her Wonder Woman in a long time. Wonder Woman.
Mike has a great point. He goes, you want to make sure that the fulfillment company handles VAT automatically. And so that's really important too. So Elisa's not going to come in. I don't know whoever that was jumped out. I didn't know who that was who was coming in. Do you know who that is, Vincent? We'll see.
No, I didn't actually see anybody jump in.
Oh, okay.
But
I thought I saw somebody there for a minute. Blab's still acting funky. So Lisa's still in her superhero outfit. So anyway, so we're going to go ahead and we're at 2:40. We're going to end the show. As always, I'd love for you to visit manlypinteresttips.com, click on the sidebar, and subscribe to our email community so you'll never miss out a great show like we had with Vincent here today. Vincent, where can we find out about you and more of your services?
Yeah, the best way to contact me or find out more about me is to head off to mcmb.com. ngmarketing.com. That's where you'll find me. And I just want to do a quick testimonial because I know Jeff's got 2 spots left. If you're definitely looking for someone that you want to learn Pinterest from, and you're looking to gain the experience, the insights, there's no better person than Jeff. So make sure you sign up for his course. That's from me, Vincent.
All right. Thanks, Vincent. I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for being here and watching Manly Pinterest Tips show, because at Manly Pinterest Tips, we're always adding testosterone 1 pin at a time. See you next time, everybody.